And we will go to number 3, the approval of agenda is circulated. Be it resolved that the agenda for July 26, 2023 meeting of the Grafton Communal Water System Committee be approved and circulated. Can I have a mover, please? Liam, Craig, seconder, John. Any questions, anything with that? No? All in favor? Carried. Number 4, the approval of the minutes of the June 1st, 2023 Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting. Be it resolved that the minutes of the June 1st, 2023 Grafton Communal Water Committee meeting be approved. Can I have a mover, please? Liam, Craig. And Joan over. I see Bruce is there. Okay, all in favor?
Well, I did have a question.
Yeah, it'll come up at the next one, which is
Pardon me.
which is business arising from it. All in favor? Carried. Okay, number 5, now business arising from those minutes.
No, I think there should be a correction to minutes.
Oh, okay, let's go back to 4 then, if there's a correction to it.
Yes. There was one here that I think Joan Stover was the one who raised it and should really be the moved by. And I note that my name is spelled incorrectly in a few spots. The H is missing. Most one place it's, or a couple of places it's good, but the others it's not. So the one, which one was it? I got it marked. I did mark. I did. Joan, you were talking about something last time. And something to do with.
Is it to do with the water tower?
Yes, the water tower. That was yours. That wasn't mine. So I just think it should be noted that she's the one that moved in.
And Grit, you're page 6 of 18, W1923. That's where your name is misspelled.
It's a couple of places actually.
And 2023. Yeah.
Okay,
Page 6 in 2 places. Page 7
And page 7.
and page 8.
okay, so we can make those corrections.
Thank you.
Any other corrections? Is it a correction or?
Well, it's not a correction, no.
Okay,
Wait in line.
so we're done with the corrections.
No, page 9. W24 2023 for Grit. That's all.
That's all, folks. Okay. So Yolanda will note those. Okay, let's go to number 5, business arising from these minutes. Is there any business arising from these minutes? Joan?
Thank you. Just wondering, we did mention about the tour in there.
Mhm.
And I was just wanting an update on that.
And would that be through you?
It's my understanding
Adam?
that some dates were forwarded to the now acting CAO. If those dates have passed, I'll have ongoing conversations and extend the invitation again to the interim CEO or CAO to extend the invitation to council and the water committee again.
If I can make a suggestion, could you please send the proposed dates to our chair? We could then forward them on to the CAO. That way, at least it's meeting us who have requested the tour.
Yeah, send them to me, Adam, and then what I can do is I'll look after our group here. And then Pat then can look after council. And if both of us go, then it's only the other 3 she has to really worry about it herself if she wants to go. So if you send me those, if I get them, say in the next few weeks or whatever, we're not back until September, right?
Oh, we have a meeting in August.
Do we a water committee?
No, pardon me. No.
No, there's not a water. We're not back until September. So if probably, let's say, Adam, I would say you're better for a date in September sometime, right? August is pretty. So if you could maybe give me a couple of dates in September, is that okay? everybody?
Good,
September's probably better, and then I'll send it out and figure out what date's good for all of us, and then we can all go. Probably better that we all go together, us. Okay, thank you, Adam. Any other business arising from the previous minutes? Seeing none, can I have, do we do a mover and a seconder for that? Yolanda? for
If
business?
you're giving direction to a specific committee member, then yes, I would suggest a motion to direct a committee member to provide you with dates be made.
Who wants to make that motion? Liam? Shot. And seconded by Joan, okay, to ask Adam to come up with some dates in September for us, right? For a tour for the water committee, and then I'll pass the other dates on to Pat. Go ahead.
Just one more thing was, is there an update on the St. Mary's Cemetery water issue with,
Okay,
that's in here. Okay, good. All right.
we'll do, let's just do this one first
Perfect.
and then we're good. So all in favor of that? Okay, that's
Seen it
carried.
somewhere.
Okay, now go on to the St. Mary's one. I believe, Adam, you were going to talk to Bayham Construction or something, and
It's certainly contained in the. Pardon me, it's contained in the report, so if you'd like to deal with it now or in the report.
Sure,
Depending on
that'd be
do you want
fine.
to deal with it now then?
No, we can, whatever, if it's in his.
Okay, let's
report.
wait when it comes up. There's a report on it, right? Okay, moving on, number 6. We don't have the treasurer. There she is. There's Nicole there. Just saw her now. I see financials. I think of your name right away, Nicole. So we have the financial report here. Be it resolved that the budget to actuals to May 31st, 2023 comparison report be received and filed. Can I have a mover, please? I have to look over at this side because, or no, there's Joan, seconded by,
Looks like Nicole wants to say something.
oh, go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, I just sent an email out basically at the start of this meeting. It's an updated May year to date. And the reason for that is that there was 3 or 4 lines on there that were changed as far as the budget went on our final budget update that went to council for approval. So I've resent that out. So you'll find that in your email. And it was just those 4 lines and the budgeted items that were changed.
Okay. So I had a mover, which was Joan. Can I have a seconder for the financial report and then we'll discuss it? Liam, seconded by Liam. Okay, all in favor? Okay, and now is there any discussion on the water report? Any questions on it that you want to ask Nicole? She's here.
Through you,
Rick?
Chair. I was looking at the consulting. And I believe is that, I'm not sure what that is, but how come nothing's been used out of consulting yet?
And I'm not sure, some of these questions might have to go to you, Adam. In fact, a lot of them would, right?
Water consulting number 71000 under expense. It's about the 5th item down. 14,600.
None used today.
Nothing's been spent yet, apparently.
It's my understanding, through you, Chair, that this. You know what? I will have to return an answer for this. I don't have a firm answer for that budget
Okay.
line item. Off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Okay. So if you want to note that, Adam, and then maybe you can get back to us on that. Did you have a question, Liam?
Yes, 4 up from the bottom of the first page, water insurance. It looks like we're way over a budget for year to date. Is that to do with? Is that to do with just a billing period? So account number 73045. Actual is 10,689.60. budget was 5,767.28. Yes, Nicole, thank you.
Through you, Counselor Booth. So if you look at the lines, when you see the budget under current year to date, that is 5 of 12 months. So the system takes the year to date budget, which is in the far right column, and figures out approximately 5 months worth of that. Although our insurance actually comes in at the beginning of the year, I think in February, and is paid all in one lump sum. So the actual budget for that is 13,841.50, and the actual is 10,869.
So Nicole, would there be any more? There should be no more than spent on that one that's paid once during the year and then that's it?
That is correct.
Okay,
Wonderful.
Through you,
go ahead, Grit.
through you, Chair, to Nicole. Nicole, is that because we changed the provider for the insurance and we actually got reduction in the insurance, which is why this is less this year? Or less than what was originally put in?
Correct. So overall, our insurance went down approximately 30% this year. Once we got the allocation from the insurance company, some areas within the municipality experienced a larger portion than others of that reduction. The majority of the reduction was seen in liability and not so much in some of our capital items like vehicles and things like that. So
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Through you, Chair Booth, to Nicole, just looking at the water customers, it seems to be, maybe this is a catch-up one as well. Would it be, Nicole? Because it is only running at a little over $2,000.
yeah.
It's in the revenues.
Yeah, so again, through you, Counselor Booth, and I think Adam can probably confirm this. I believe we're usually sometimes a couple to 3 or 4 months behind in billings. I believe we get billed from Lucy every 2 months. So if there's up to 2 billings that haven't come in, it could be up to 4 months of billings missing there.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions regarding the budget? Being none, so Adam, would it be possible, just to make things easier, if you could discuss with Larry and then find out about the consulting, and then if you want to send us all out an email, you can tell us, or if it's something that you have to talk to Nicole and work out and we get the answer in September, that's fine. But if it's something simple, maybe you could just send it out to us so we don't have to wait 2 months. Go ahead, Grit.
Just one more question through you to Nicole. Nicole, the water to reserve, no, not water to reserves. The payment in lieu for property and building. Would you be able to give an explanation of how that works? Because that's something that's kind of a gray area. That's second
from through you, Counselor Booth. I'm just looking at some of my notes that I have in there, and it looked like the last couple years an amount of 41,000 had been put in there. What I actually went and did for the current year when doing the budget was looked at the assessed value of the property, which is 937,900, and applied the commercial tax rate to that at 0.02454384. And that's how I came up with the 23,000.
Thank you.
Oh, Adam, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the question on consulting, it actually occurred to me. That allocation refers to monies that go towards internal and external auditing. So this year we have an external NSF or ANSI audit, depending on who's hired to conduct that external audit with the water system. And that allocation is for those budgeted costs. if I'm not mistaken, that will occur within the Grafton water system in October. So that's why nothing is tonight yet, as the audit hasn't taken place.
Okay, perfect. That was quick.
Thank you.
Maybe just I have one question then, Adam, since you're talking about that, where would the money that we pay Bruce then come out of? What line is that?
Pardon me?
What line in the budget would Bruce's testing come out of then, or consulting?
Okay.
I think it's part of a different budget. I don't think it comes out of Lucy's budget.
Don't believe so.
Because I invoice the town directly.
So Nicole, maybe you can answer it, because I think, Bruce, we've seen it before, didn't we, last year? We were
Yeah,
looking.
yeah.
Nicole, maybe you can answer.
Yeah. Through you, Counselor Booth, the notes that I have on the line, which says water consulting, which is 10-0800-0801, 71,000. This says that we had budgeted 14,600 there for, and I do have on here consulting for we added another 50,000 actually, when you see my updated version for the water modeling study, but that was for monitoring the wells. Now I know I have seen some bills from Bruce, but I think they were more to do with the new well. And those bills would not have been posted there. So I know Pat actually does all the expense coding on those. So Bruce, if you've actually sent in bills for the monitoring, then I just need to look into that and find out where it got.
Okay, that's a good, that brings up a question for me there. Do you want me to divide, like, there's two essential tasks here. There's the permits to take water, and then we have this new well project too. Do you want me to divide them into separate invoices?
They don't necessarily have to be divided into separate invoices, but ensuring that it's clear that it's to do with the new well. I know that the first couple of bills that came in, we did have to go back and pull them because they had been coded to some of the expense accounts and not to the well. So anything, even if you want to reference the account number for the new well, which is account 74385.
Okay.
That's
You know what, for my sake too, maybe I'll keep the two separate, because there's the
Okay.
background permit to take water and then the new well. Although I do kind of do both together, or if I'm going to go out, I'll check the local wells if I have a meeting, I rather than making two trips out. But I'll try to keep it separate.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's important because those bills, Nicole, are going towards the new well, which are being paid, right, with the grants and everything. So
Correct.
we need to separate that from the daily operational stuff.
Correct.
It is certainly my understanding as well that the permit to take water consulting falls into that cost code.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's great. Okay, and I think I jumped ahead of myself because I had already approved the financial report. So it's approved anyway, but we answered all the questions and we got a quick answer back from Adam. So that's great. Okay, we're going to move on to number 7, projects. Correspondence from Larry, the manager of capital projects, Lucy, Grafton drinking water system 2023 operation report, the reporting period from May to June 2023. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Treated water numbers are there. May shows flushing for approximately 40% of the system. So there are increased flows in May versus June, including maximum daily treated is higher. We had to stop flushing, as you know, because of the failure for the control solenoid valve on the fire pump. We will resume that. The schedule is the next week or two, certainly, and complete that work. But to speak to the first point, we did in fact receive the repair part from Mexico, install it and return the fire pump to service June 27th. We also now stock a spare now that we are aware that they're no longer stocked locally with our supplier Noble. I have a brief piece on the well request for proposals, which will probably be covered in Bruce's report in more detail. So we can skip over that. No service repairs. The St. Mary's cemetery service. I have contacted Tom Bain at the request of the committee. Mr. Bain's reply is that he certainly will not get to a repair of that service until the fall, and it is a projected fall completion. I stressed with Mr. Bain that this is important to the committee and that it has been ongoing for quite some time. And he reiterated his projected fall completion.
I got, yeah.
The other items that we have are that we've had two major things since this report was written, which I suppose I should share with the committee. One being a damaged hydrant Saturday, just west of here. It was repaired on an emergency basis. Northumberland OPP has been notified and report taken. We thought initially that it would be a very large repair, that the hydrant was damaged and would need to be replaced. We managed to repair it, disassembly, replacement of a breakaway flange and some internals. So the cost was significantly less than we initially projected, but we made that repair on an emergency basis Tuesday, I believe. The other item is we have received correspondence from Graterio regarding the committee's direction on procuring options and pricing for elevated storage. They have given the initial starting point that we procured from them approximately a decade ago with updated pricing. And that was furnished to Mr. Parkinson from GM Blue Plan so that he could give it a more thorough review from an engineering standpoint and move forward and make recommendations from there. So that was supplied to Mr. Parkinson Tuesday.
Okay, thank you for the report. Liam, you had a question?
Two things, please. I just noted that there was no date on this report. Is that normal now?
Oh, the year has been deleted. Goodness. That is not normal.
Okay. Yeah, if we could just possibly just after his signature, the date he signs it, that gives me a point of reference. And maybe a second follow-up to that, Tom Bain, perhaps getting him to define when fall is so we can follow up as opposed to the snow has started to fly. Is it still fall?
I certainly made exactly that distinction to Mr. Bain.
Good. So we need an actual date.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Grit.
Through you, Chair. Under the, when the boil water advisory had to be issued, was it really in effect for one full month?
No, that is May 11th. Or sorry, May
May
12th.
12th, not June 12th?
Yes.
Okay, because to me, I was thinking, holy moly, a boil water advisory for a whole month is a long time. Okay, so June 12th, and okay, good. And so once that's fine, that was it. I also concur with what Liam said, because even though it's not an urgent matter with the cemetery, it can have repercussions, and we've had some heavy rainfalls and whatnot, so.
I agree as well.
So I'm not trying to create a crisis or anything, but I think there has to be something, even if he's doing it for free. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Any other questions regarding the report? Okay, can I have a mover, please? Liam, a seconder, Grit, all in favor? As presented, thank you. Okay. Next one, 1618, is a report from Dave Dawson, Acting Deputy CAO, Fire Chief re the current water system relative to fire suppression activities within the hamlet of Grafton. Be it resolved that the Grafton Communal Water Committee received the report from Dave Dawson, Acting Deputy CAO, Fire Chief dated July 26th that identifies some discussion points brought forth by the Fire Chief of A&H Township. Dave, I'll hand it over to you. Yeah, I guess. Okay, I'll have a mover, please. Grit, seconder. Joan, okay. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Chair. Whoa, that one's up pretty high. If I have any grammatical errors, punctuation, dates missing, please let me know. I'm happy to correct them. Adam, help me as I go through this as well, please. Anywhere you need to, just please input. So I come here more for general discussion and information. A little bit of history. I started with Alderman Coleman a couple years ago. And in the fire department, at least, there has not been a very good understanding of the water availability in Grafton or how the water plant worked. So I'm actually encouraged that you're going to do a tour of the plant and understand that as well. I met Adam and Adam's counterpart. Who was that, Adam? Larry, at the water plant a couple of weeks ago and actually received a very good education of how our water system works, how the fire pump works, and some of the limitations that our system has. So I thought that it would be prudent. One other thing, also through planning meetings for plans of subdivisions that are coming to Grafton, the conversation of water hydrants, water mains, appropriate service has been part of that discussion. And I thought that it would be prudent to come to the water committee just to try to complete the circle. So if you have already heard anything that I'm about to talk about, please just raise your hand and tell me that you've already had this discussion and it's on the table and we're good to go. So I just wanted to make sure things are full circle. So the first thing for me with the water system, and that is Appendix A, which is the chart. Adam mentioned that he could share that with this committee, is that we have a 12-inch main or a 300 millimeter main down to the top end of the bottom, I guess, basically the bottom of the hill. Right? Laird Street, is that? Aird Street. And then it switches to an 8-inch main or a 200 millimeter. And then we have some portions of the water main system that is only 6-inch or 150 millimeters. So what I wanted to bring to the attention of the water committee is that the 6-inch water mains, when it comes to maximizing a fire pump or the ability to deliver enough water to a fire pump, that it creates limitations. Okay. 8-inch main is definitely more appropriate. Adam, would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly there's a lot of 8-inch main that's being installed in the town of Coburg. They're larger. You have more fire capacity, certainly. The limitation there is in a small town with low flows naturally.
Yep.
It's a trade-off between fire protection and water quality, the extents of your distribution system. So the water ages in your mains and your distribution residuals can't drop. It's a balance.
Okay. So that was just more for your information. And the reason why that would be important is because when the planning department, when council, when the township is awarding or allowing for more building, more development, that we understand that there probably needs to be brought into the process either some consulting or some looking at our water main or water delivery system that we currently have, because there will be a larger demand. As your fire chief, I have no issues anywhere there is an 8-inch or a 12-inch. It's great supply. We did go up to the north end of Bowmanton Road and used one of the hydrants off the 6-inch main, and there is a considerable drop when we do draw large amounts of water. It does definitely activate the fire pump. You can definitely watch what's called our compound gauge on our fire pumps, which is the inlet pressure. So what happens is when you hook a fire pump to the hydrant system, it will draw water, or water will be fed into the fire pump. We can draw down to about 120 kPa of pressure. And then if we drop just below that, you'll notice that at some point the fire pump kicks on and a large rush of water comes. And the fire pump will run for about how long, Adam? Is it pressure activated?
It will run as long as the pressure and flow is required.
Right. So then if the pressure goes back up again, then the fire pump will shut back off. Just one sec. So if we have that ability, we can flow great water, and the pump works extremely well. And through Adam's education was great. And then I was able to educate the rest of the fire department on that. One of the things that we need to understand is the redundancy that's built into our water supply system, and or the lack of redundancy that's built into the existing system. And this is also something that should be identified through development or future development within the town of Grafton, just that the water committee should consider it. I know that our planning department definitely is. The fire department is involved with planning review, so that we can identify that we have, you know, at least hydrant systems going in, etc. I think your education day will definitely be enlightening with what Adam can show you. One of the things to remember kind of in that regard, when I'm talking about a 6-inch water pipe system, is that any water system that you have, you're limited by your smallest opening, right? So I know that there's been a bit of conversation about a water tower. There's been some conversation about looking at different things for service for the community, and just wanted to bring that to light. And so that diagram will really help you.
Okay, is there any questions for Dave? Grit, go ahead.
That's just number one. I'll go to number two in a minute.
Just because of what it actually relates to where you said Bowmanton. I don't believe Bowmanton is on our water system. Isn't it Bowman Court? That's where I live.
Bowmanton Road North.
Does it, so it has water?
Wait a minute.
Primrose Donkey Sanctuary?
Sorry, my bad. Brimley Road North.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
Might have-
Yeah, because Bowmanton is up like,
Brimley Road. So Brimley Road North is a 6-inch main, and it is a dead end main.
okay.
And Brimley Road South has a 6-inch main that is not dead ended. It's also very advantageous in a water system not to have any dead ends. So that's something that should also be considered.
The next question I had, is the water modeling study not designed to take care of what his concerns are as well, what the chief's concerns are?
Certainly a water model would address the development concerns that have arisen there. And development would be guided by the water model. Currently, it's kind of piecemeal, and there are guidelines, different criteria. So having a model is one thing, then implementing and managing how development is approved or denied based on that model. Fire flows, there's several fire flow standards. Some Ontario Building Code has one, I believe. FUS is the one that is a little bit more stringent that we use in the town of Coburg, but it's one part of that certainly.
Go ahead, Grit.
One more question through you to the fire chief. There's a fire, or there's a color coding system for hydrants. Is there any use for that in our little small area? Or is it pretty much the same wherever you go?
So I'll address that in my next.
Okay.
part. No problem.
Okay. Is it to do with what he first talked about, John? Go ahead, John.
So you had mentioned the Brimley Road north and south of 6-inch.
Yep.
Are they the only ones or are others?
I would have to look at that chart again to tell you that, but once that chart gets circulated, anywhere it's identifiably 150 millimeter, that is your 6-inch main, 200 millimeters, 8-inch, and the 300 is 12.
So following up on that, do we know what the percentage of 6 inch is to the total system? What percentage of all the piping is 6 inch versus 8 or 12?
I don't know that answer.
I'm just interested in how big an issue this could be, that's all. Is it, 2% or is it 20%?
Off the top of my head, I would say the percentage is under 25% for 6-inch. However, the 6-inch is typically at the extent of your distribution system.
Uh-huh.
It's not in your main trunk. And the chief will probably explain in his next section, I would suppose, why the size of those distribution pipes at the extent isn't perhaps as big of a concern as what's feeding it.
So sorry, just to follow up on that question.
Can't hear you.
Speak into the mic.
Just follow up on that question. Well, maybe you're gonna cover in the next one. The question is, what's the impact totally on 6 inches? And was there a plan to put 6-inch in at some time? Are they old? Are they new? Did someone say we're putting 6 in because of this reason? I'm just wondering why there's 6 versus 8 versus 12.
So
I can certainly speak to that on the basis of the engineering of the water system. There are considerations for fire flow, but they're not the only considerations naturally. Typically, when that decision's made, if you have a main trunk main like we have coming down the hill directly from the pump house, you'll see something larger and supplying more water naturally. And it's set up to provide a certain amount of fire flow in any given area, B, to supply rated capacity for development, also minimums and maximums in terms of flow through. So a limited amount of water velocity within mains so that it doesn't damage pipe wall. And all of that was done when the initial engineer planned your water system more than 25 years ago. He sat down and decided, this is the development projection. This is what it's going to look like. And this is what our current footprint is. Where do I have velocities, water detention times, water quality, and fire flow, and made all of those decisions. I'm not as concerned by the size of the pipes in your distribution. Certainly you have fire flow throughout your distribution system that is adequate at this time. And your water model will likely inform that in the future with development. So it's not a point of serious concern at this time, although it could arise over the next 10, 20, 30 years, particularly if, for instance, Brimley South, there was a 200 home subdivision plan, there would be an associated upgrade in the infrastructure to supply that fire flow.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, Dave, you want to go on to the
Yeah,
second
thank you.
part?
So the second part was when you understand Appendix A and where your 6-inch mains, I believe the new subdivision below the public school, when it was installed, I believe that is a 6-inch main that flows through there. So much like what Adam said, similar to the fire department, we are doing a master fire plan and community risk assessment so that we can plan for the future on where the department might be 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And I think that it would be very important for my understanding as a water model study, that you make sure that that is as current as possible or something to review.
A water model, certainly, and generally hand in hand with that, we do in the town of Coburg and some other places, which is a water master plan, which is long-term capital development, and they go hand in hand. So you get the idea of where the system's headed and a snapshot of what the system is and what the hydraulics are going to be in the event of development.
Go ahead, John.
Why was a 6-inch put in for the new subdivision?
So,
Why was that not 8-inch?
so I can speak to that. I see a decentralized population. Properties are fairly large there. They're fairly far apart. So usage within the subdivision is not enormous. Adequate fire flow in the area. There's a certain amount of pressure there, certainly down in that zone. So there would have been a calculation to decide, do we have adequate fire flow under FUS standard? And an engineer would have applied that. And they also would have said, if we exceed that fire protection, what is the impact by having a very large pipe with very few people using the water within it? Water only remains chlorinated at a high level so long. And then you start having things like increased rust settling out iron, which we sequester. The chemicals that do that don't last forever. You start getting brown water, taste and odor complaints, and reduced chlorine residual. So an engineer would have fixed that out. I'm not concerned particularly because that section is looped. So the water to any hydrant or set of hydrants is provided from both directions, not merely one direction. So there is an increased capacity there. Fire flow is adequate within the subdivision, certainly.
That answer your question, John?
I'm still slightly confused. Dave, I thought I heard you say that you really might be suggesting we should be doing 8-inch, not 6. Am I hearing that or not?
So I'm bringing information to the water committee so that it's on the table and that it's at least considered.
Right.
I'm not suggesting that you have to do one thing or the other. But as we start to, as more subdivisions or development is being approved and more applications are coming forward, that is just something that you want to consider and make sure is addressed.
I'm still-
So what Adam is saying is when you have a 6-inch main and you have a hydrant on top and it's fed by both sides, just do simple math. You're being fed by 12 inches of water, right? Just simply.
Yeah.
But when you have a 6-inch dead end, you're only being fed by 6 inches of water. So just kind of a simple way that we look at it.
No water system ever exists static, the same forever. As development continues, even now in the town of Coburg, I am upgrading some mains that are larger, 40 or 50 years down the road, or upgrading mains to feed development that was unforeseen. But certainly I'm also seeing some that are being reduced. I'm doing a project on Westwood right now that's going to a reduced size because the water model tells me that that residential area, the main is much oversized. It provides fantastic fire protection, but water quality in the area is not good. So as we're redoing the main, so I think the chief is bringing to the committee the idea that we not only need to plan for the present, but for the future. And I would imagine modeling will guide that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Go ahead, Grit.
Okay, through you then, Chair Booth. The subdivision, our development in our township is all rural. We're all rural. We have no sewers at all. So we are strictly water based in Grafton. So where we live in our subdivision, and John is in the same one, we are 1 acre plus lots, all of them, just the same as the one to the south of us. So are we 6-inch where we are as well? We're just the St. Andrews to the west of Old Danforth. The subdivision to the west of Old Danforth, where you come in off where the library community center is, across from St. Mary's School and Church.
Off the top of my head, yes, I believe so. It's 6 or 8.
Right, okay, but I'm just saying that this is what the township is, and I can't see anywhere south of Brimley that there'd be possibility for a 200 home development. However, the one that's going to go in south of Highway 2, in behind the Catholic school, the Prentice Farm property, that's going to be double the housing of what we normally have, because it's going to be half-acre lots, because they've got good septic systems now coming out that you can actually have more density, even if you have a septic system, but it will still be on the water system. So will they be 8-inch because they're double density to where we are?
and certainly townships do hire and professional engineering firms to arrive at those calculations as to what the appropriate servicing requirements.
You just
All right.
scare me when you say 200 home developments.
I cannot foresee 50 years down the road. I would have, I recall a time when Coburg was not a particularly large
I
place.
Yeah.
I recall a time when Colburn was certainly very much smaller than it is. I can't foresee what development is. It's not my bailiwick within. the
Time to
area.
build a wall.
But you have planning, you have water modeling, all of these professionals get together and inform, and I can't speak to the will of council or the appetite for development within the township, or certainly planning with as it pertains to wastewater would change the density of your developments overnight.
Okay, continue on, Dave.
Thank you, Chair. So the reason I bring this up, it's because this is something that is of consideration for today that'll go well past my time and probably well past all of our time. But the decisions that you make and what you're aware of have certainly a fundamental impact. And a lot of the things and decisions that were made 25 years ago, now that we've endured a pandemic and also are facing significant development changes throughout the entire province, that really it's your developers that should be held accountable now for the replacement or the preparation for the future, as opposed to a stamp of approval for a development and then all of a sudden you're sitting back realizing that, well, we should have looked at that or we should have made that decision. So that's why I brought this forward. The last piece I have for you is the redundancy. When Adam showed me the system up on top of the hill, your wells flow through 2 pumps each. And then there's this big red fire pump, and you'll see it in your tour. It's pretty cool. But all of this water flows through a pipe that is much smaller than 12 inches. So your maximum allowable capacity is limited to what this one piece of pipe is before it flows out into your water main. Okay. Now, this was the design from, again, over 25 years ago, but it's something to consider. And when you consider redundancy for a hydrant system, you have a fire pump. If we had built this water system today, the way it is, we would have installed 2 fire pumps, 1 on each side. If you decide, if I understand this correct, Adam, if you decide to go to a water tower, which the costs are somewhat comparable when you look at the overall probably longevity of maintenance of what you achieve by a water tower, but Adam can comment on that you would create redundancy within the system that you wouldn't then be relying on a fire pump. Is that true, Adam?
Certainly you wouldn't have to rely on a fire pump for instantaneous flow. So smaller fire, short-term capacity, 1,000 or 2,000 cubic meters of water that is in elevated storage. You have it instantaneously at your fingertips. It's also elevated that storage, not on demand at any time instantly, but that tower is filled during your lowest electrical cost times. And we have experienced boil waters on an almost annual basis, at least in my time here in zone 1, because of short losses of pressure, less than 10 minutes. A water tower will resolve those issues. Development at the top of Grafton Heights to propose development. If I'm not mistaken, currently they're proposing a relocation of the PRV that's just south of the 401 to move it downwards a bit and have zone 1, that pressure zone, service that subdivision as well. Our boil water advisories currently, we have been fortunate that the fire hall and the MRF are the only customers in that zone 1 that are usually affected by losses of pressure. When Danforth Heights, or not Danforth Heights, Grafton Heights is built just south of the 401, Every time there is a momentary loss of pressure within the system due to a PLC failure, a power blip where the generator took 30 seconds to start, any number of things that we've experienced over the years, all of those subdivision homeowners will be under a boil water advisory, and they will make phone calls. I can guarantee. So over the shorter term, there's other benefits, electrical savings, certainly. We have increased fire protection because we're not going to take the fire pump that we have out. Also, instead of requiring a small pipe for the purpose of metering to be accurate, now the pipe that comes out of your water tower is 12-inch, which means that when the chief makes a call for mutual aid, when he has a very large fire in town, they can hook up on a 12-inch main and take 3, 4, 5, 6 times the water at an increased rate from a water tower directly. So you have a great deal more fire protection. You have a great deal more flow. You also have redundancy where I can shut off your plant for 2 or 3 days to conduct maintenance, and you have elevated storage there that can be worked with. Currently, the way that the plant is designed, there is very little. So there are many benefits, and there is, of course, an associated cost with moving to that. I'm sorry, I just kind of jumped.
It's okay. So good. No, it's great. That's wonderful explanation. That was the education I received, and I went asking questions for understanding. And this is what I found. And I just thought that information should not be something that I keep to myself or bury in an office, that it should be brought forward so that you can address it. Again, I have no personal will or way for you to address it. I'm just bringing these up that you can address it through our departments.
Go ahead, Grit.
Through you, Chair, to the fire chief, for real life experience. Are you aware of the fire that was at the Golden Rooster a few years back in Crammy Township?
No.
It's right beside Town Hall, and it was a big old house, but it was a restaurant as well. And my understanding is that they ended up having to get Trent Hills to come in with a tanker truck and pumper and whatever else, because they ran out of water and they were sucking sand. So do we have that threat right now if we've got something like that?
So I know that with respect to your question, Chair, I know that there has been some issues with the well in Crammy. I know that as an example, when our fire pump section goes down or we're notified, that we activate through the county a tanker shuttle response for the event of a fire emergency. Your hydrants provide water immediately, and that is the biggest thing for us to combat fires. Your community risk assessment will probably identify some things there for us to follow, or at least to look at. I would suggest that the hydrant system you have currently is probably very good and very useful. The reason to bring it forward again was for the future, because this is where you are at now, and somebody needs to make a decision for the next 25, 50 years. With respect, if I can address, Chair, the colors of the hydrant. The firefighters brought this question to me actually a week ago after our training. And they wanted to know who's responsible for looking after the hydrants. Are the hydrants owned by the township? And Lucy provides the service agreement?
The hydrants are owned by the township and Lucy services them.
Okay, so there are two questions they had. Who's responsible for ensuring access to the hydrants? So the shrubs, the greenery, all of that. And then the second thing was they wanted to know if we could color code them so that when we pulled up, we knew what was a 6-inch, what was an 8-inch, and what was a 12-inch. And that question also came with a will to want to do anything that they could do to help.
Can you answer that, Adam?
Certainly, to the chair. We have shared large defect list as far as access. with Public Works within the township. As we conduct service, flushing in the spring, we try our best to make it accessible, recognizing that an operator who arrives he can probably run a weed eater or a small bush cutter, but when it becomes a larger project, we refer that to our colleagues at the township, and we relay that information on an annual basis. So we have shared all of that this spring in preparation so that our operator could have access to do flushing. I haven't heard back from the operator. He'll create another defect list when flushing is completed to tell me these things need to be taken care of. So we work in cooperation, conjunction with Public Works within the township. NFP 291 dictates color coding, where, to simplify, red 500 gallons a minute and below, orange is 1,500, green is 1,500 to 1,000, and then blue 2,000 and up roughly. I don't know the exact numbers. However, within your system, because you are on PRVs, every hydrant in the township is going to be green by the nature of your pressure reducing valves in your zone system within here. If we move, and your fire pump can only deliver through a 3.5 inch, can only deliver a certain amount of water regardless of the size of your mains. The limiting factor within the township right now for how much water can be delivered, they're all the same, because all of that water comes through a place this size at the plants. And that is a function of accurate metering for water supply on a daily basis, which is a requirement from the ministry. If you have a water tower, all of your hydrants, by virtue of where you are and the age and CF of your coefficient of friction within your water mains, I have no doubt that within your system, knowing its age and composition, that all of your hydrants would instantly be coded to the highest flow rate and exceed it, because a 6-inch thin wall PVC main can deliver an incredible amount of water, especially at the pressures that we see. Brimley Road South 6-inch, there's places there that are 95 PSI at 6-inch will deliver well in excess of 2,000 gallons a minute down to 20 PSI. There's a remarkable amount of water there and capacity. If it's flowing out of a tower, it can all flow as quickly as possible. If I have to force it through a hole this big with a pump, I can only send so much, and that's why all your hydrants are green. If you go and code it next year or the year after, they're still going to all be green.
Great answer. I can provide that. Thank you.
Hold on, go ahead.
To your chair, I'm just wondering, I know a while back we did talk about the needs study, and I just wondered if anybody's memory is better than mine, just where we were at with that. I know we talked about who would pay for the study.
Oh, you mean the water modeling study?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So I'm just not sure where we're at with that, if that's something we should be looking at and what the cost of something like that is. And as you had said, that the developers would be possibly having to pay some of the cost. Yeah, recovery.
Without stepping in too deeply, I can speak to what is done in the town of Coburg. And I can speak to the price that was furnished to the committee when we asked the question about a year ago. I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, SEMA gave me they are our engineer, not Grant, naturally, said something between $25,000 and $50,000, if I'm not mistaken. I would have to check back through my correspondence more than a year ago. That was the amount that they gave me, and certainly the initial cost of setting up the water model in the town of Coburg was borne by Lucy and the town of Coburg. And then subsequent applications or reviews of any new development within the town of Coburg. That review and sending that proposal out to the water model and having it run through is made at the cost of the developer. That's how it works in Coburg. And it has worked exceedingly well for us. What the township of Crammy decides to do, or sorry, pardon me, I go to a few different places, but what the township of Almond decides to do with the funding model within their system, it's entirely at the will of council, I would imagine.
Go ahead, Grit.
Okay, through you, Chair. We have approved the water modeling study. The budget has been approved. The $50,000 has been built into the budget. And at our last water committee meeting, we passed a motion to ensure that the cost for that entire water modeling study goes back to the developers per unit, per housing unit. That's what we've done. So that's been taken care of. Coming back to the hydrants, the color coding system. Since things cost money, would it be prudent? Because how many hydrants do we have in our system? I think it's,
There are 128 fire hydrants within the hamlet of Grafton.
okay, so to paint 128 fire hydrants green with the green circle on it, to me, that would be an alert to the people that live here. They're going to say, why is that green color on there? So it would start the education process for the people. So that when all of a sudden it comes that, we're talking maybe a water tower, or we're talking maybe a second fire pump, you can say you don't have the maximum water output here. So if we did something like that, I'd like to make a motion that we move forward on having the fire hydrants color coded as per what they are in our township,
Okay,
in our hamlet.
before you make that motion, go ahead, Dave. You have a comment?
So I would like to advise you not to move forward with that right now,
Okay.
if I may.
Okay.
Because of Adam's explanation. We only have, and this is going to be a great answer for me to go back to the firefighters with, that their color is what they are because of our maximum available pressure and water volume. The color would not change unless the township ended up with a water tower. And then things would change at that point. But for now, they need to remain the same. And which is just fine. That's great. I mean, we will use what we have to use. And we have, when we look at a hydrant system, this is also another reason why we look at having adequate apparatus in the stations and adequate apparatus to respond, including tanker trucks and pumper trucks.
Go ahead, Grit.
Through you, my logic there is to get people kind of mentally prepared that there's costs instead of all of a sudden it's coming through hugely. And why are their taxes going up all the time? So it's just from that kind of, too many people are in the dark. So if there's some sort of a signal, I know that Crammy has their fire hydrants color coded because their system is different throughout their area where their fire services are. So I'm just thinking if it's a start, and wouldn't it be nice if we could see down the road, who knows when, 10 years, that it goes from green to blue because, hey, we've got the maximum output.
Adam, go ahead.
To the chair, I can certainly speak to the associated costs of such a step, having just undertaken some fire flow testing in the town of Coburg. The cost to conduct fire flow testing with a reputable flow testing company this year in the town of Coburg was $130 a hydrant. So to get the approved engineering study with the NFP 291 standard is $130 a hydrant. If we multiply that by 128 hydrants, we now have a fire flow rating, which we know is green already, but we need the engineer to say it's still green. Then when we paint those hydrants, we can expect a greater cost than that. So we would be looking at an expenditure to code and paint hydrants within the hamlet that would be in excess of $50,000. We could certainly educate the residents of the hamlet in a more cost-effective manner, I would suggest. And I'm willing, certainly, We put some of that information out. We did it last year through Lakefront Utilities Facebook
Mm.
and our social media channels.
Mm.
I would be happy to have our social media coordinator share that information and those posts and media with the township to do as they wished.
Through you, Chair. So what you're saying then is that we know that they're green, but we can't tell anybody they're green because we have to pay an engineer to tell us that before we can do anything about it.
Well, I look at it this way, Grit, too, is I don't think the average layman on the street really, they just look at a yellow hydrant there, and I don't think I've ever thought of what type of pressure is there.
Well, they do in Crammy. That's why.
Well,
So just.
I do like the bit about having a social media though, Adam, especially when we're talking about issues with the growth around the hydrants and things like that, that I know if I was a property owner and I had a hydrant near my property, it takes me 2 minutes to take my weed eater there and keep it back, right? So that would help us with the Public Works Department, that they don't have to send people out there because of, you know, people allowing it to grow over, but that's a huge cost. That's, I agree with you.
Doesn't make sense to me to do it then.
Yeah. Go ahead, Leo.
Thank you. Through you to Chief Dawson. Chief, there's talk about painting the hydrants. I've noticed there's just a reflector that can be attached to one of the whatever vents for the instead, which probably would be a lot more cost efficient as well.
So they have tags that can be put on in behind the caps as well. There's a varying different types of things that you can do. The NFPA that Adam is citing is something that is not new to the fire service, but is definitely new to the province of Ontario, and certification, NFPA, this, that, and the other is definitely something that is becoming more and more strong. So definitely something that can be looked at. But as Adam indicated, it's not something that I would suggest we move forward with now at all. The idea, and Greg can pat me on the back later, I did not come to this committee for any money. The idea was just to bring forth some information for you to consider.
And to the chair, I can certainly speak to the cost of reflectors. We've installed them in the town of Coburg. They come in at approximately $6 a piece. So that's $12 per hydrant, which the math is relatively simple there. However, the cost of conducting fire flow testing remains the same, which is a fortune.
So question for you, Adam, is and I don't know because I don't have hydrants where I am. Are they all yellow in the town?
So hydrants themselves are painted yellow. Typically, private hydrants we see certainly in the town of Coburg, we suggest they're painted red. But public, yes, yellow. It is only the bonnet and caps that we typically paint to code to fire flow coding.
So how often would they be, the 100 and whatever that we have, are they looked at like every 5 years they get a paint job or something? Is that a?
So NFP recommends fire flow coating every 5 years. However, our coding here doesn't change. It would be lost money. I wouldn't advise that we do it. Hydrants, and if those coatings change, we certainly paint bonnets and caps in the town of Coburg. Our hydrants, however, the entire hydrant is coated on coated on an as needed basis, and that depends on the quality of the coating that we expend. Some townships will paint, or towns will paint hydrants with trimclad and employ a summer student. And that is the direction it goes. That coating typically lasts 3 to 5 years. More recently in the town of Coburg, we've done a very much more expensive, which is a media blast, 2 coats primer, 2 coats paint, and it's polyurethane based. We're certainly seeing 15 years plus out of those coatings, but the cost of conducting hydrant coating is fairly significant. I've implemented new forms as far as our hydrant inspection when we're doing our flushing, to take a look at exactly how many of our hydrants that I feel are in need of coating, to as a capital preservation step to bring that to the committee and council as part of a capital plan in the following year.
Okay, good. So as long as it's looked after and somebody's keeping an eye on them so that, okay, that's good. Is there any other questions? Go ahead, John.
As long as we're finished this discussion, I want to go back to Joan's question. And
Has it
Joan
got to
asked-
do with Dave's report though, before we?
Well, I think it is part of it. And
Okay.
The water modeling was brought up as part of Dave's discussion. And Joan asked, when is it being done? I heard the budgets and everything being covered, but I haven't heard a status on when is the model
Exactly.
study being done. Does anyone know that?
I'd like to address the water modeling. So, sorry, through you, Chair. So at the last meeting of this committee, there was a resolution that the water modeling study be recouped from future developments on a per house basis. A lot of the recommendations that were made at the last meeting have not yet gone to council for their decision or approval. So we can't jump the gun saying all this is going to take place. So it still has to go through council for their approval. As for the water modeling study, Nicole, I guess we know what the budget is and that was approved, but do you recall of any direction that has been given by council recently on the water modeling? I don't believe that has been addressed yet, has it?
Through you, Councillor Booth, to my knowledge, nothing's been brought forward to council for approval at this time. However, there was the $50,000 that was included in the budget.
I'll make a comment on that too, it did come to council a little bit about our last planner that we had was adamant about that the water modeling was necessary and she thought it should be taken out of the budget. When this committee, and I know Joan and myself had talked about it, was adamant about making sure that the developers pay, that it wouldn't be, a cost. So it hasn't gone further than that because as Yolanda says, it hasn't gone to council yet with regarding that of who exactly is paying. Go ahead, Grit.
So the water modeling study has been approved. The money is there for the $50,000. It's going to come out of development charges initially, but it will be recouped as developers come on and get their subdivision agreements and whatnot.
Maybe.
The big question is, and this is where the two over there, Deputy Mayor Stover and John Rohrbeck is going. Who takes the lead on getting the water model study going and when's it going to get going? So who's in charge for that?
If I could address that through you, Chair. I'm going to talk to the acting CAO clerk, Pat Kemp. I'm assuming that's something she's going to probably put together in a report to council that includes where the money is going to be paid out of and possibly putting together maybe an RFP to put it out there for a consultant. So
Because it still has to be discussed exactly how we're getting the money back from the developers. There was a talk about there would be a surcharge or something like that. That's why we had gone to Adam and Larry about how exactly are they getting the money back? Were they charging the developer $5,000 every time they access the water modeling, or are we going to look at each unit get charged or something so that we eventually get the money back, right? Yeah. But it hasn't come to council yet, so it will be looked at. Go ahead, John.
Sorry to keep on this, but so there was a planner we had and I forget what her name was, but she was leaving.
Jennifer.
And was there a replacement for Jennifer? And is that person going to be responsible for forwarding or pushing this forward or how? I'm just wondering how that works. She was pretty adamant. We should be doing a study. We
Yes.
discussed it a fair bit of time and got hung up in budgeting and paying for it, but still believe there should be a study. Where I'm kind of going is I see it's still got to go to council, but is someone replaced Jennifer? Is someone going to be saying we need to do a water study?
Yes, Jennifer's replacement was just hired. She attended the planning meeting last night, and I'm sure that it'll be on her docket. One of the things that the acting CAO will make sure that that's something that's looked at, especially with all the new developments. That question was asked when we had the one by you there, Joan, that was talked about there, right? So there's been a bit of a delay because the planner changed, but it is still, people know what's going on. Go ahead.
Okay.
Through you, Chair, to Adam, is that not, is it not Lucy's responsibility as our operator of our system to be the one that would go to SEMA or whatever to go through the RFP process? Or is that something that we do internally?
To the chair, if council decides to move in the direction of an RFP, we would certainly assist or procure or
Thank you, Dave.
it's likely beyond our purview to write one. But we would certainly assist or do so if we receive that direction from council. If the acting CAO chose to receive the direction to do that, we would certainly support and assist. But at this time, in the absence of direction from council, we await direction and how we might best assist the township.
I would see it that Pat would end up doing it with assistance from Lucy, that a Lucy could make sure that when doing the RFP, what we have to address and things like that, because they're the professionals in it, right?
So our public works isn't involved at all in anything to do with our water system.
With the RFP, they might have input in it the same as Dave, and we would go to Lucy in that to make sure, right? I think the biggest thing is what we've talked about, and Joan, you can help me out here or correct me, is it's sort of been left that how we're going to recoup that money. Because this committee was adamant about, I remember last year we had talks about it when we had even the present mayor who was on the water committee, is how we were going to pay for it. Because we didn't feel that it was right that the current water people on the water system should be paying for all this future development, right?
But it's in our minutes, okay? So it is that it's coming out of development charges.
Yes, but it's how we recoup the money from the
And
developers.
that's in there as well, that it's going to be charged back to the developers on a per unit basis. So it's been decided from our perspective, it's just got to be approved by council.
Yeah.
Get to the
Been
next step.
recommended to council.
It's been recommended to council.
Yeah, and it'll come to
correct.
council and then a decision will be made.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Is there the chief's not here anymore, so why don't we did have a mover and a seconder, so why don't we vote on that to pass it, and then if we have any discussions about it, we can. All in favor of the chief's presentation? Carried. Now, was there any, you can't ask him any more questions,
No.
but he had to go.
It really doesn't have any questions for Chief Dawson. It's just that this is time sensitive for us here because of the subdivisions that we're facing here. And I think that you had mentioned you had thought, I don't remember hearing any water studies from the Danforth thing, but I'm sure that they're aware that, I would hope that they're aware that they're going to have to be paying for some of this information.
I know it was brought up by a member of the public or
Yeah,
something, but
yeah.
I don't think they went into, notes were taken and everything, and I'm sure the new planner, John, will, address all of those concerns to make sure.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Standard. It's standard for developers to be paying for the water infrastructure and everything, so.
Okay, number 8, new
Sorry,
business. Go
I
ahead,
have a
John.
question on number 7 still,
Yeah.
not on any of the points there, but one I think that's missing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is the right point, but we have a new project going on. This point 7 is projects of a new well.
Mhm.
Can we add the a point in for ongoing updates and minutes? We discussed in previously that we would discuss the status of the new well, both the schedule and the budget at this meeting, every meeting, but it's not a point in the agenda. And I waited until point 7 projects to bring this up, but I really
Make a motion.
want to understand
Where we're at.
where we're at with that. And do I have to make a motion to?
John, if you
add
make a
the new
motion,
well?
we can vote on that, and I think that's a good idea that we'll add that as an item, as a number there to say update on the progress of the well. So if you want to make that
I would
motion,
like to make that motion that we add the new well to the agenda on an ongoing basis until the well is finished.
Yeah. okay, seconded by Liam. So
And
any
if-
discussion, everybody knows what we want. It'll just be a numbered item that will be on there all the time.
My
Agreed.
next point is, can we get a status update right now or not?
Pat's
I
not
can give
here
a-
unless,
That's the, I
I
know
can
we.
give a
maybe
brief.
Bruce, you can.
Bruce, give us
Yeah.
Hold on a second, just before we do that. So a motion was made by John, seconded by Liam. All in favor? Carried. Okay, go ahead, Bruce. Can you give us an update?
Okay, yeah, so updates going forward, I think they should come either from Tony Greer Galloway or Grant, but with input from myself. But before the meeting, I did reach out to Tony. He was on holidays. He called me back on Monday. I reached out last week to Grant, and he didn't have any information yet or updates. I did reach out to the driller to see what was going on, because I think what we need to do is so the driller's been selected, and I think that it went to council, and the contract was awarded to G. Hart and Sons. Brian Watson is the owner there, and anyways, I think that the next step. So nothing much has happened other than retaining the driller. But we need to put a stake in the ground so the driller knows where he can drill, and then we have to get him on board with his timing. So I want to push the project forward and put that stake in the ground. It's getting everybody on board to meet on the site to agree with it. But the key one there is Brian Watson from Hart, and they're a very busy company these days. But he promised me he would go out within the next 2 weeks and meet with us, and I'll just be flexible and work with his schedule. And then we can get Grant, Tony from Greer Galloway out there, and everybody to agree on the location. It's mainly coming from the driller. So anyways, we put the stake in the ground, and then the driller has to tell us what he would like to see us make improvements. We were going to get the roads department out there and clear some trees and make a better path so he can get his equipment in. I've walked the site, and I have a preferred location. I just need to get the driller to agree to that location too. So anyways, there's really not much to report. We just got to get the stake in the ground and get the driller out there.
Go ahead, John.
In the project schedule we got in the previous meeting, it said that we'll be drilling the well August 30th. Is that in jeopardy, or is that still possible?
I don't know.
And I know, Bruce, you're not, and it should be Grant or somebody, but I feel this committee should be on the budget and project schedule more than what we have been so far. Like I don't understand where the schedule's at, and I don't even know where the budget's at.
I agree, and we should be getting updates from Greer Galloway because they're the engineer that's retained to oversee the construction of the new well. So this should be coming from Greer Galloway, but I don't know if they were invited to this water committee meeting.
Well, we'll make sure with the motion that we made, we'll communicate that to Pat too, that we want to see from now on, starting in the September meeting, that there's going to be a specific section in there for the update. And we would like to see Grant here or whoever's here and show us where we are on the schedule, John, and what we've spent, and how things are going.
Schedule and budget.
Yep.
And I agree. It doesn't have to be that complicated. It just has to be what or milestones, what the schedule is, budgets,
Delays or anything,
and
overages.
delays. Yeah. And just and any news, let's say any specific news.
Yep, that's good. Go ahead, John.
One further question on the same thing is, I understand some of this stuff is going directly to council. And I get that may be the process here and not going through this committee, and this committee is just going to receive information. Is council, you have to tell me, is council on this as far as budget and schedule?
Well, I can tell you, I don't think, because like Bruce is saying, there a lot hasn't happened yet, other than when the contracts were awarded. And I wasn't at the last water meeting, but something came to council after it came here. Usually council gets it after it comes here. Now, it could be if our next meeting's not till September and something happens in August, we might receive it in August if we have a meeting, but I would prefer it comes here that we see it and then it goes to council, right? And council's going to want the same thing, John. They're going to want an update of what's going on. You know, is everything on track? Is there any delays? Is there issues? You know, not just awarding of the contracts, right?
So I can still go.
Yeah.
on. I'm still slightly confused. It went to council for approval of who's going to do the drilling.
I don't think
It didn't.
did
come
the
to this
drilling.
group.
I think the last one that I saw to council was it the drilling or was it the one before that, which was I don't know, something came, John, and it was awarded. It came by Pat through grant. Was it the drilling or was that it was the drilling?
200
So
and some
I'm
odd thousand.
confused as to the role of of our committee versus the council on this project.
Yeah.
And I'd just like that to be straightened out. You know, what is the council going to be responsible for? What is this committee responsible for? Are we just going to receive updates? And if that's the way it's going to be, that's the way it's going to be. Council needs to, I think, let us know how they want this new well driven and managed.
Yeah, and
And
I
I'm
think the issue
confused.
is a timing thing too, right? If the RFP closed, say an RFP closes tomorrow or something, we're not going to hear about it at our committee till September, but it might go to council before that, right?
Sure.
So that should have, whatever came to council the last time, and if it was the drilling or that should have been on this agenda here. But like I said, so if an RFP closed tomorrow, we're not going to hear about it on the water committee until September. Council's probably going to hear about it before, right? But I agree with you. Everything should be coming through here if possible and then going to council.
Or reverse, if it does get done in council, it comes down to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One way or the other. Just-
Yeah, no, and you've drawn a good point that we need to start, and I think council needs to start seeing it too, right? That I think in council, we need the same thing where we should have a separate thing there on whether it be on planning or on council to say, well, updates so that we know what's going on, because it's a huge cost, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Leo.
Thank you. Something just kind of struck a chord with me, which was the comment, well, that's my preferred location for a well. The reason I bring that up is I'm sure there's something more scientific than water witching going on. However, water witchers are very successful in locating a great spot. Is there, when you say this is the preferred location, has there been like an echolocation or something along that line that says, yes, there's definitely water down there?
Bruce, you can answer that.
Okay, yeah, there was a test drilling program in 1993 that took place and led to the location of production well number 1. Then 1990, so it was I think drilled in 1995 and commissioned I think that year, and then I think the subsequent year 96 the backup well, production well 2, was put into service. And just to recap, there's so both wells operate, they alternate service between each day. So you have PW1 operating one day, and then it switches the lead to the PW2. It's 100% redundancy. So if one well goes down, like a pump fails, for example, you can rely on the other one while you get the other well fixed. What had happened is there over the years, I think starting about 2010, we noticed that Lucy preferred to operate one well over the other. And the reason was the ammonia was a bit higher in one well in PW1 than in PW2. So what had happened is it took more chlorine to make it bring it to the proper chlorine levels. So there was a favoritism on the wells. So we came to the conclusion that this was unacceptable to favor one well over the other. And so we studied it with Greer Galloway, and the conclusion was to put in another well. So the location of the well proposed was somewhere between two good locations. So PW2, and then there's a monitoring well that's out there that monitors deep water quality in between the landfill and the production wells. And that's called monitoring well number 1 deep. So the location that I proposed is midway between monitoring well 1 and production well 2 deep. I didn't want to get too close to PW1 because of the ammonia concerns, but we know we got good ammonia monitoring well 1, good ammonia PW2. So we just kind of split the difference and put the well in between. And when I say I got a good spot for it, when I walked the area, there was a road that like let's say a laneway that's kind of been carved out of the woods. So we don't want to create a new laneway in the woods there. The laneway goes up to the communication tower and then extends to the let's say to the west through the woods. So I think there was a clearing in there, and that's what I want to kind of follow. So when I say I got a good spot, that at the end of the laneway, it's halfway in between monitoring well 1 and PW2. So that's how the conclusion came to the good spot. As for water witching, we never do. I never do water witching. I know that some contractors are asked for that. There's people in the province of Ontario who specialize in that. But that's not something we employ in searching for groundwater resources. We base our locations on the geology and hydrogeology.
Perfect. And
Go ahead,
just,
Liam.
thank you very much. And a follow-up would be just with regard to the contracts that have been awarded. I hope there's been performance dates set in there so that we have heavy penalties if we're going way beyond what's expected.
Well, we can all ask that the next meeting that we have when Grant's here, but I'm sure that's all in there about performance dates and things and what's acceptable and what's not, but we can review it all at our next meeting.
Thanks.
I have to admit, the water well industry is a really bustling industry these days, and it's difficult to line up the well contractors. They're really busy. There's lots of well contractors in the province of Ontario, but there's really only a handful that build municipal production wells. So there may be about 5. Let's say maybe let's just round it up to 6. There's half a dozen municipal water well contractors available in the province. The fellow that won the project, G. Hart and Sons, is certainly up there. So they're a good contractor, but I do know they're very busy. They're, so in terms of performance issues, there is specifications in the contract, like to make a well that isn't that's sand free, turbid free, and meets certain flows and volumes. But other than that, I don't think there was a performance issue on the timing, because drilling a well could sometimes really go quick. You can run into a bunch of delays, and the delays could be he's just not available. He's at other job sites or weather or drilling equipment breaks down. But then again, sometimes they can go pretty smooth. I think when I was talking to him, he did mention he had an equipment breakdown, and it put him behind a little bit.
Go ahead, Grit.
Okay, through you, Chair. I think the reason that John has requested that the well update be put on as a standing item is just so that we have reasonable timelines and some accountability built into the project, so that just doesn't go on and on and on without any end and any timelines of sorts. Because it's okay if something does go wrong, at least if we have sort of a timeline in place, and then the explanations come along. But it's keeping us informed and making sure that we know what's going on and having some accountability built into it.
Nope, totally agree. And that was a good point, John. And Joan and myself will make sure that we bring that up with the CAO, that we want to make sure that for time sensitive stuff, if it comes here first or If we get information in September's meeting and it's come to council already in August, then we'll make sure, or I can make sure as a chair that, listen, the drilling was completed in August or something, so we're not going to call a special meeting, but this is what happened. So that all makes sense. Okay.
Yep, I agree. I think we can all handle bad news, but no news is, very frustrating. So updates are really much appreciated. And I'm hoping that within the next 2 weeks, we get the guys, out there in agreement where the well is going to go. And I'll put the message forward that we're going to expect either the council or this committee updates, the scheduling updates, budget updates. Just
Even if nothing goes on, right? Then if that's a standing item and they say, listen, just so that bad weather, this and that, it's been delayed and they haven't got out there to drill yet. It's like, okay, we have an update. We know that's good. Okay. Number 8, new business for future discussion. Does anybody have anything to bring up under number 8?
I do.
Go ahead, Grit.
Okay, it's something I've been thinking about because we've got a lot of things on the go in our little our little hamlet of Grafton regarding our water system. The fire study that's going to be done, the community safety assessment and all the rest of it will have impact on the water system within the hamlet because of development. I have a question for Lucy. There's basically 6 mailings a year for bills, correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
Yeah, because every 2 months, I know we get it. Does anyone have an appetite for some sort of a newsletter that would help to start to educate our water users that could maybe, because what have you got? I think it's less than 400 bills that go out, right?
I can't speak to the exact number of billed customers, actually.
Because I think our number of users is like the water users themselves, like residential, I think is about 300, maybe 360, 70. And then you've got your bulk users on top. Is that correct? I think that's
376 is the number that strikes a chord with
Oh,
me.
well,
for
they say there you
residential,
go.
but yeah,
That's pretty good,
it
eh?
takes me a minute to make the gray matter.
Well, I'm glad I could help you bring that. So if we've got such a low number, is it possible if we could do a newsletter? And I'm not asking our staff to do it. I mean, if we as a committee could put our ideas together and we would have to run it through staff for approval before it gets sent out, but something that's going to do a folksy update to the people that live in this hamlet that are paying for this system. Is there a chance of that piggybacking on a mail out of the bill?
If that's the will of the committee, and we can certainly accommodate it.
Does anyone have appetite for that? Do people not care at all? I mean, I'm someone that just genuinely really cares about all of it. So, but I can't, if I got something like that, an update of what's happening with your water system from your township.
I think if the information's valuable, fine. If it's just, we're going to put something out to put something out and it's not worth reading, then.
No, I'm thinking about, for example, educating about that we only have not that we're going to tell them we only have one fire pump, but the logic behind looking to the future for a new water tower, an elevated system that can provide better water service.
Keeping your
Improve
bushes clean around the hydrants and things like that. That's fine. I guess my one question would be, who pays for that? It comes out of the water committee then. I don't think the taxpayers, I can't see.
Okay, first of all, to write it is nothing. That's just volunteer time. We can put it together and it comes out on paper. You're talking 400 pieces.
No, it doesn't matter what the cost. I'm just saying that it would have to come out of this committee's budget or something, right? Somebody has to pay for it. I can't see, just my way of thinking, I can't see other taxpayers in the town saying that they want to pay for, and whatever it costs, whether it's $50 or $500 or whatever, I don't know.
Well, I would print stuff for free.
No, that's
It's
just a
whether we
comment.
could
That's all.
get it in with the mailing or not.
It can be discussed at a future meeting.
That's
Yeah.
why I'm bringing it up.
So why don't we, if you come up with some ideas and in September's meeting, if you have a bunch of stuff that we think that we could, make it worthwhile, that there's a bunch of items, Adam, if you have anything maybe that Coburg sends out on theirs, for example, keeping the stuff around your hydrant clean or other information bits or pieces that maybe you would like us to tell the residents coming from Lucy that helps you?
Well, I'm thinking they do their own newsletters.
To the chair, I do have a commitment as a result of our last inspection. One item that is included within inspections, and it's something that comes from the MECP, is to undertake a water conservation initiative. The nature of that is left entirely to the owner and the operating authority. And the item that we've committed to as a response is to share a water conservation newsletter with users within the hamlet of Grafton throughout the course of the year. So that's something that we're working on and we'll
Beautiful.
continue to work on.
That's good.
So that is the most affordable thing that we could possibly do to meet that requirement from MECP for the hamlet. And we'll certainly be doing that in the.
Is that
coming year.
going out with the billing, do you know, or is that
We'll-
going to be a
we will-
separate?
We will
Go
likely
with
send
the
that over to billing.
Yeah.
So that is there, but certainly on our social media channels, on a routine basis, there is a dearth of information that's shared by our communications coordinator that is pertinent to all water systems as a generalized item. Although more specific resources for Grafton, we share that we're flushing in the area or operational notices more than anything else.
So even in our own little newsletter, we could add something like they go to the Lucy, they've got all this information, lose that as a link. The other thing is we've got this new well going in. That's a big deal for us. That's coming out of 400 users' pockets.
Yep.
Spread over a long time for sure, but you know what I'm saying? If we can generate the interest in it, that people might want to stay informed. I don't know. There may be no appetite for it at all, but
No, I think it's a good idea. I just think that as long as we're putting information in, that we're not just doing it just to put stuff that's of no value, right? I see a lot of people open up stuff, they look at it, and before it even gets in the house, it's in the trash. So, and there are some good things, like you said, that some people will want to see. So why don't we come back with ideas in September?
right. But there's 6 bills and I'm not talking about every bill. I'm
No, I know.
talking
And then
about
we have to
maybe
find
one
out
or
what,
two
we have to
over
find
the
out
year.
which bill that Lucy is doing, because you're probably not going to put it in on that one. Because we want to stay away with ones that get too thick, because the post office can't seem to deliver things that the envelope is too thick.
And
All right, I'll flesh it out a little bit
Yeah,
more for the next.
come
meeting
back,
and-
yeah.
Sure.
to the chair as guidance as well, Lucy does furnish a quarterly to users. Now this is water and electric, called Stay Connected. It is a 1-pager for town of Coburg, so it is a very large undertaking to do a newsletter, but they are available on our social media channel as well. So if you wanted to use some of the resources there.
But you're
certainly
bigger than we are. We're just very.
We are happy to share those resources with the hamlet of
Yeah,
Grafton.
if everybody takes a look at it, and we can bring ideas in September to say, this is what we would like to see, and then maybe we can touch base with Adam and Larry to find out what would be possible during the 6 billings, that we could get maybe one out or something like that.
And I'm looking at the cost being next to nothing. So.
Good, then next to nothing will go in the budget on the.
Exactly.
I like to count every dollar, Grit.
Oh, I know. Me
Any
too.
other new business? Anybody bringing anything up? No? Okay, next meeting, the next meeting of the Grafton Communal Water Committee is tentatively scheduled for September the 13th at 3 p.m. Hopefully that's good for everybody. All vacations will be done in that, but if anything changes, I'm sure Yolanda will get back to us.
Especially if it includes a field trip.
Yes, well, hopefully, I'll leave it up to you, Adam. I'm not sure. Would people like to try and do it in August, or you want to let August go because people are all out and try it for September? What's better? Maybe I outspoke there to.
I don't know until I see the dates.
Yeah. So maybe Adam, you can, I know I'm not here for the first week of August. That's why I said that, because, and then there's some counselors that are off then middle of August and this and that, and usually August is just sort of laid to waste, right? But
Perhaps
we
prior
talk
to the
about
water
September?
committee meeting would be a.
yeah, maybe if we do it just maybe the Monday or the Tuesday, well, probably not the Tuesday, but maybe the Monday just prior to our water meeting or something, and then it's fresh in everybody. So maybe that would be the
Tuesdays are-
11th or something.
Tuesdays are council days. Yes.
Tuesday's council usually, yeah.
Unless it's the second Tuesday.
Is there a reason we couldn't do it the same day as our water committee meeting?
I don't know how long's the tour.
It's not a very large water plant. We could get it in and out in an hour.
But can we see any of the other wells locations and stuff?
Well locations are, if you stand in the parking lot, you can see all the wells there are to see from the
Beautiful.
parking lot.
So why
it would-
couldn't we do it
Up to
before?
50 meters of walking.
So would the 13th be okay if we say, is that no good for you, John?
No, I've done the walkthrough before, and I don't think you want to put both together. Sorry. By the time you go through and ask questions and take a look at everything, you're kind of spent, as we are getting right now in this meeting. With
Yeah.
that visit, I wouldn't put the two together to try and come back here and have the meeting also. I think it's too much.
Okay.
September 11th.
So maybe if we could look at them, if the 11th, the Monday is good.
I can tell you that you'll be doing the tour with an operator and Larry. I will be on vacation, but we can
Oh,
definitely do that.
We were really. looking
Larry gives a
forward-
great tour. He has many years.
Yeah, but he doesn't give popcorn out like you do and that. Okay, well, we'll try for the 11th. That's a good point there, John. Maybe, it would be too long. If we can make it the 11th, and if you can send me whatever and I'll send it out to everybody and we'll see, and then we'll discuss it with council would like to get out there too and take a look at it, right? So there'll probably be other dates in September for council. John?
So the only other thing is you could do it on the 13th and move our meeting back a week. So you're doing two things here, right? You probably want them close together. You could do 11th and 13th. You could do the 13th and 20th.
Next week.
13th and 20th. That's all I'm saying. I'm just looking at options here.
Yeah. I'd like to try to stick to the 13th if you can, because me and Joan, we put that in our calendars for the whole year.
Yeah.
And then when Yolanda and Pat and them are booking things, they stay away from those certain dates. So if we change the 13th, it starts to mess everybody's up, right? And add just the 11th if it's possible. But I'll leave it to you, Adam. It's possible that maybe Larry's not there either, and we'll get the.
One of us is always available
okay.
in the system.
Thank you so much.
One other possible suggestion is you do it in the morning of the 13th and still have the meeting in the afternoon at 3. Or do it at 1 p.m. on the 13th and still have it at 3. I'm just saying, we don't want to have it at 3.
Then we can
there.
have our nap in between.
You could do it at 11 on the 13th. and
Yeah,
just
I'll leave
keep
it to Larry and then they let them come to us and then I'll send it out to you. But try if you can, the 13th and the 11th. If you don't have anything marked in your calendar, try and keep them open. And we'll go for there. If the 11th isn't possible, then like you said, John, maybe they can.
The 11th is more difficult than the 13th.
And don't forget, Lucy, light refreshments.
I like the idea of the same day, really. even
Very
if we
light.
Split it apart.
Bottled water.
All the water you can take with you will mix you up. a
Like
batch.
11 p.m. for the tour and 3 p.m. for the meeting. like-
Yeah, because they usually zoom in. I know it's really nice that Adam came today in person. That was great,
Yeah.
but it's, if we did it in the morning and then we could still have our meeting in the afternoon.
That's a good
Then
idea.
it's the same day and it's not.
Yep.
a Big deal. The next thing that, along with that, because this sheet really didn't show us anything, we could not read it. I made a request before we started the meeting that we get a copy of this. We're not gonna we're not gonna hand it out everywhere around the township. We realize.
You can hand it out. It's not a secret.
Oh, no, it's not a
We
secret, but
keep all of the hydrants right out where people can see them. And
no,
hand
it's a
them
good
yellow so you can find them.
idea. Great, excellent. But to have something that we can.
Apparently, that's not effective to keep people from hitting them. with
You're right.
cars.
No, apparently not. But that I think, so we can actually read it, right? Would be helpful.
Will that be a cost recovery for what that costs to fix it from that perspective?
Yes.
Good.
The good news, the bad news is we don't know who struck it.
Oh.
Although Northumberland Police are on the trail. It happened, we believe, in the dark hours of Saturday. Couldn't find any trace evidence on the hydrant whatsoever. Just by judging the wheel track width and track, we believe that it was a pickup truck. But there's no cameras on it. There's no information. However, that much damage to a hydrant has corresponding damage to a vehicle that shows up sooner or later. So that may well be the case. We have a report. I'm not sure because I actually fixed it as a priority and had the conversation with the chief as the acting deputy CAO, where I said, we're going to fix this and preserve fire protection, especially in front of a co-op feed company. And then we'll sort out how all of the funding works later when the CAO is back. I would imagine it's going to amount to a few $1,000s, which may be an insurance thing,
50,000, did you
a
say?
few
A
thousand.
few thousand.
Oh.
They thought originally it was gonna be like 10.
Oh, you're doing fine. I would like you negotiating my next pay package.
Oh.
That's great.
It'd be interesting to know if neighbors around there have the Ring doorbell and all that stuff. These people have all kinds of things on their doorbells now that it picks up all kinds of stuff,
I
right?
took a firm look around and there also isn't even a line of sight from the convenience store, any of their cameras.
Yeah.
The police may have more luck. That's why I left it to the professionals.
We'll keep an eye out at the breakfast meeting on Friday for damaged pickup trucks.
You see a large dent in a truck that's kind of,
Yeah.
Shape of a fire.
With yellow paint on it.
Did you hit a pole?
Okay, so we're good with the next meeting, and if there anything else to bring up, if there's nothing, then can I have a mover for adjournment? Liam, seconded by John, all in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you, Adam, for coming. Bruce, thank you very much for attending, and we'll see everybody in September. Thank you. Unless I win the lottery, then I won't be here. I'm telling you.
Oh, now that is.
Bye.
See you later.
Did myself.